Carl is redefining healthcare around you, innovating new solutions and offering all levels of care when and where you need it. Investing in technology and research to optimize healthcare, Carl, with Health Alliance, is always at the forefront to help you thrive.
Meeting the ever-changing healthcare needs of our communities, Paris Community Hospital Family Medical Center is now Horizon Health, with the same ownership, management, providers, and employees. Horizon Health provides patient care and promotes wellness to the communities of East Central Illinois.
At HS St. Anthony's Memorial Hospital, we are at work transforming heart care, rebuilding knees and hips, delivering new generations, and focused on providing health care to you. We are HS St. Anthony's Memorial Hospital.
Sarah Bush Lincoln Health System, supporting healthy lifestyles, eating a heart-healthy diet, staying active, managing stress, and regular checkups are ways of reducing your health risks. Proper health is important to all at Sarah Bush Lincoln Health System.
Hi, I'm Key-Ann Armstrong. I'm your host for Being Well. We'd like to thank you for tuning in today. We have some important topics to discuss on nutrition and weight management. And joining me today is Michelle Schultz. She's with Nutrition and Weight Management at Sarah Bush Lincoln in Mattoon, Illinois. So thank you for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a topic that a lot of people struggle with. Nutrition, eating right. There's so many different choices out there these days, and trying to figure out what to do and how best to go about it, it's really kind of mind-boggling sometimes. So let's just cover a little bit on a general topic here, and then we'll delve in a little bit deeper.
Sure. I'm so glad that you acknowledged that. I think it's really difficult because there's so much mixture of information out there. I say it's the thing I love about my job, and it's also the element that makes my job especially challenging, is just really trying to keep up with what is the latest fad that people tend to gravitate towards, because people want instant results. And the reality is with weight management or weight loss as a whole is it's continuous effort is what is going to be required to have that success. So that's something that I really am passionate about trying to emphasize to individuals, is that there's no quick fix that's necessarily going to last long term unless you're educating yourself along the way. And you're looking deep at those habits so you can make those adjustments.
And I think that's something that's difficult to figure out, is this is a habit that I have gotten used to. I need to change the way I'm thinking about the way I'm eating and how to go about doing this. And it's not quick. That's the frustrating part. I think that a lot of people have. We hear that a lot, and I've struggled with it, and a lot of my friends have struggled with it. So what's some general things that you get to address with people when they're coming in? What's some of their main concerns?
Well, one of the things that I definitely want to, my approach is just trying to help them identify on their own. I can listen to an individual talk about their choices and their habits, and there's many options that are going off in my mind, but what I'm thinking of might not be what's going to help them out the most. So my goal is to really work with them to acknowledge, oh gosh, as I'm talking to you, I realize I don't eat breakfast, or I'm drinking a lot of soda, but really trying to help them identify something that they could work on that may not seem like the normal approach to take, but as soon as you can start making some adjustments, it's amazing what you're able to accomplish.
Well, let's talk about some of those adjustments. Something that everybody struggles with is time, because you think, okay, I really need to work out, I need to tone, I need to take some time and figure out my meal planning and things like that. How do you talk about time and how to adjust your schedule so it's not a last minute thing and you're reaching for something to eat that you shouldn't?
Sure.
What's some suggestions?
So some suggestions that I try and help people identify is, maybe there's a day during the week. Oftentimes when you read different articles or recommendations, it talks about, say, meal prepping or grocery store shopping on the weekend. And quite honestly, that is their busiest time of that 7-day frame. They might do better off picking Tuesday night to go grocery shopping and Tuesday night as their meal prep night. But really helping people look at their schedule and identify when is the most appropriate time for them to make that planning and make that a priority.
Okay.
I think if they can identify the impact it will have, that makes all the difference in the world. A simple little example I offer is I say it's no different than if you were to just jump in your car and take off with no idea where you're going. You're going to be inclined to go any which direction, right? But if we can have a more of a detailed roadmap, meaning a meal plan or a specific grocery list, it makes everything much simpler. And when we have those items at home and we have a purpose for them, we're going to be more inclined to follow through.
Yeah, that makes sense. Something that I've learned to do on my own, because if I write a meal plan down or a list down for the grocery store, I forget it at home.
Sure.
And something that's come in very helpful for me is my cell phone. I write it on my cell phone because I always have that with me.
Absolutely.
So, that's just one thing that I've changed, and it's because I'm listening to folks such as yourself, to implement those things.
And that seems so simple and so small, and it is, and it shouldn't be as hard as what we tend to make it. And I think that's another matter that people really struggle with. The thought of, I don't have an hour to meal prep, or I don't have an hour to cook my food, I don't have time to go to the gym. Well, but do you have 10 minutes you could go for a walk? Or do you have 5 minutes that you could make a salad and put it in your refrigerator? Even if we can just have elements that are ready to go, that is a time savings when it's time to put that meal on the table.
Yeah. Well, as long as we're talking about savings, what about the money aspect? Because people say, it's so expensive to eat healthy. It's cheaper to eat some things that I shouldn't. What do you tell people when it comes to that?
Gosh, this is a hard sales pitch. I mean, I'm just going to be honest. But what I want people to understand is when they aren't buying a lot of the things that they are, the chips, the cookies, the soft drinks, that creates money, makes money available that it can be then used to buy some of our quote healthier options. I'm a firm believer too in that you need to shop around, and by that I mean don't just limit yourself to fresh only. Explore the frozen food section. Even look at the canned. Sadly, canned have gotten a really bad reputation, generally because canned vegetables are salty.
Right.
Fruit is too sweet. But let me tell you, if you get a canned vegetable, drain off that juice, rinse those vegetables off again, you've cut the sodium almost in half. So that's a huge sodium savings, but it's also a time saver because canned vegetables are ready to go. All you have to do is reheat them. So there's not a need to wash and to chop and to peel or whatever might be the case.
Yeah.
So trying to just break down any barrier that might make it harder, but also in the same process, helping the individual see that, oh gosh, that can of green beans for $1, that's going to give, 4 servings at our meal. Can't really argue that.
Right. So
when you think about what it's giving you in return also.
So knowing what to shop for and knowing what to eat, I think is something else that folks struggle with, because when I go to the grocery store, I'm thinking, well, I hear dark greens are the best to eat. I don't know, if I should get spinach, kale, if it's better than iceberg lettuce. I mean, what do you know what to buy when you're at the store, and how to prepare a meal plan for the week? And, how do you get that knowledge? What's the best thing to do?
Well, certainly, I'm going to promote our services at Sarah Bush Lincoln. I'm more than happy to meet with individuals either in a one-on-one capacity to help answer some of those questions, or through our healthy living nutrition classes that will encompass that information. Another just real simple strategy that I would encourage individuals when thinking about what fruits and what vegetables specifically to shop for is think of the rainbow. Each color represents nutrients when we apply that concept to our fruit and vegetable selections. So if we're able to have a nice variety of color, we're really covering a variety of nutrients that will give our body what it needs to stay healthy.
Okay, so eat your colors.
Eat your colors.
Taste the
not
rainbow.
Fruit Loops, not Skittles. That's usually what I have people ask me. But that's just a real simple
in the produce
approach.
section.
In the produce section, that's right.
Yeah.
And again, not limiting to just that fresh area, but do look at frozen and canned. And this time, seasonal options are are also going to be helpful. So, in the spring and summer, look at those farmers markets. In the falls, pumpkin patches aren't just for pumpkins. I mean, they have a variety of edible squash and other fall produce that you can pick up as well. So there's lots of ways that you can also find ways to save along the way.
All right. Well, I see you brought some different things out here, plate sizes and measuring cups and bowls and cups and such. So we've talked about time, we've talked about preparation, and what you should look for as far as price savings, and some things to look for while you're shopping for groceries. So once we get these and we're ready to eat, show us here what you've got and how we can maybe minimize some of the things that we're putting in our bodies.
So when people are asking me, what can I do to improve my food choices, I generally refer to what's called the plate method as a great starting point. The plate method gives a clear focus on the food groups that would encompass a balanced meal, and that visual also provides just that, a visual for putting that meal together so that it really is proportioned in a way that is giving the body what it needs.
Okay.
So I have a part of the plate ready for you. So the key is to first take a 9-inch plate. And that is something that we know through studies over time, plate sizes have changed. So double checking the size of the plate, especially in your home that you're eating from, but even thinking as you're eating out, noting that size of plate, because clearly the bigger the plate, the more space there is, meaning the portion is going to be bigger, and therefore the calorie content is going to be bigger.
Which seems to be the case when you do eat out anymore.
Yes, that is one of the biggest challenges. So a little strategy there, I frequently will encourage individuals to just get that to-go box before you even start eating and put a portion of that meal in the box to take home. It's that out of sight, out of mind
There
approach.
you go, right at the beginning instead of at the end of the meal.
Because if it's good, you're going to keep eating it, even if you're miserable. So that can be a real savings there. And then again, you're able to have a meal down the road the next day. So taken care of. But you begin by cutting the plate in half, and you fill half the plate with vegetables. So the example here, I've just included some spinach, and then I've put a few carrots on top for some color. But we're really wanting the non-starchy vegetables to be highlighted. So here in Central Illinois, we're really known for our starchy vegetables, or starchy vegetable consumption. So potatoes, corn, and peas. They're reserved for this smaller empty section that I left here on the plate. Okay. So not that you can't have those items or that you shouldn't, but you shouldn't have a full plate of them because you're missing opportunity to have other items included. Okay. So half the plate with vegetable, a corner of our plate is reserved for a starch. So that might be corn, like I said, peas, potatoes. It might be pasta, it might be rice. When was the last time you saw a plate that had just a little corner with pasta or rice? That's where we generally run into problems. It's covering
the whole plate or bowl.
Exactly. So we have our starch or grain here, however you want to refer to it. And then that leaves where I'm showing the deck of cards, which is intended for your protein. This is going to be chicken, fish, turkey, beef, pork. But we really want it to be the size of a deck of cards, or for us ladies, it's going to be about the palm of our hand. And again, this isn't what we're trained to think of as a serving size. We're trained to think of maybe the meat filling half our plate,
or
a
big steak, or a big burger, something like that.
Correct. So that's where, when we can train our brain to think about it a little differently, or at least keep this model in mind, it can really be helpful in creating more of that balance.
All right.
Now, off to the side, I do have fruit, because we don't want to neglect the fruit group. And I have two different sizes of apples, one that's more of a baseball size and another that's more softball. A serving of fruit is more what I'm showing here. Or if we were to have canned, it's going to be a half a cup canned fruit. 1 cup if it's fresh. So watermelon, strawberries, cantaloupe, that's a pretty good reference for our fresh fruit. A serving this size is actually going to count as more than one, which is okay, but just give yourself credit for that.
Okay.
Don't assume that one apple is one serving or one orange is one serving whenever the size does make a difference.
Now, should you have your serving of fruit with your meal, or should you spread these out throughout the day?
I think that comes down to one's personal preference and then their schedule. Many that I talk to like knowing if I'm eating less at a meal, if I know in a few hours I'm going to be able to eat again, it makes it that much easier to maybe make do with a smaller amount, especially as they're working to cut back.
All right. Well, that sounds good. And you have a divided plate here too.
I do. So I have the measuring cups out and I have this little container here. Sometimes those pre-portioned items can be helpful, or portioning out yourself if you're wanting to save money, because we know pre-packaged items do have a little bit more of a cost associated with them. So I certainly want to encourage people to take measuring cups in your own home, and then find little containers like this right here. I use this for salad dressing. Divided plates can make this concept very easy to follow, and these can be purchased online, or even disposable plates that you'll find.
I like that because it says vegetables, proteins, grain.
Yeah, so these can be very handy. It may seem somewhat remedial, but again, this is all about creating new habits. So we have to start small if we want big results. And we have to, again, stay consistent and be very persistent with those decisions. And I feel recognizing, okay, when I'm eating like this, it's getting me one step closer to where I want to be. That's what you need to be thinking of.
Right. Okay, let's talk about the bowl and the cups, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not uncommon for people to come into my office and say, well, I have cereal for breakfast. And I'll ask, well, what is the size of the bowl? Well, I don't know. I just fill it till it's full. So in most cases, cereal is 1 cup, sometimes 3/4 of a cup is a serving. If we were to fill this bowl holds 2 cups.
Oh, really?
Yes.
It doesn't look like it would hold 2 cups.
It doesn't look like it. So that's where individuals can really run into problems in not knowing the size of the bowl or the glass, for that matter, that they're drinking out of. And again, it's about becoming more familiar with what is a serving size.
Yeah.
So using the measuring cups, looking at that package and seeing what a serving is so that you know, can be very impactful in deciding, do I have a full serving or do I cut back a little bit because that's more than what I really need.
Yeah. Now, is that glass an 8-ounce glass?
So this one is 12.
That's 12.
And they look about the same. I mean, you can tell that this one is a little bit larger. This is actually 16.
Okay.
So it is a whole half cup more, but it might not give that visual appearance if you didn't measure it out. So in a situation like this glass, the 16-ounce glass, or even this 12 for that matter, filled with water, not a big deal. But if we fill this with juice, or if we were to pour a soda in here, I mean, those calories add up really quick if we're not paying attention or if we're going back for seconds.
Okay. I don't see a plate for dessert. So, do we get dessert?
Great question. So this is what we want to concentrate on most often. But most definitely, we want to, approach our meal and approach our eating plan with that knowledge of, if I'm eating this way most of the time, I certainly can work in that occasional treat. Many find that when they can eat with less restriction, they actually eat better because they know nothing's off limit, but it's more about focusing first on the fuel that our body needs, and then, and only then, working in those other sweet treat items.
There you go. So you can have them, you just have to limit them and fill up more on the
right, absolutely.
On your colors.
On your colors,
yeah.
Yes.
So let's talk about eating out again. Because it's hard when you're there and you're smelling all this food and you see all these people eating everything, you're thinking, oh, I should be good, but that looks better. How do you have self-control, I guess? What's the best way to make the right decision?
Right. So I feel very much that if you have knowledge of going out ahead of time, then you can really, tell yourself, I'm going here this evening. I'm going to try especially hard to eat really light or lean leading up until that meal, which gives you a little bit more of a budget to spend calories in a way that you wouldn't otherwise maybe have that option. Also thinking about portion and remembering nothing's off limits, But if we can keep this visual that we went over earlier in mind as we're making that selection, and make sure that we are including these elements with that item or that meal that we're going to pick at the restaurant, that can really be helpful.
Okay. Something that I hear a lot of my friends talk about is diet soda. And you know, you hear all the things these days, like you shouldn't be drinking it, it's got so much sugar, it's not good for your body. But I mean, people really do have a hard time giving up diet soda. I mean, can they have it? Should they just limit it? Should they just restrict it? What's your take on that?
Anytime diet soda gets brought up in my office, I generally want to know from the individual a little bit more about why they're asking. You know, are they asking because they themselves have identified, yeah, I drink more than I know I should, or have they read something, heard something, had a friend or family member mention something to them? But those who are really seeing it as too much of a crutch, or it's really gotten out of hand, is something I will commonly hear, then we talk about ways to slowly start cutting back. And again, preference. Some want to do complete cold turkey, others want to just slowly start reducing their intake. What I found is when one can cut back, you know, I'm going to use these cups for an example here. We're going to pretend this is our diet soda. If you're drinking diet soda and you take that away, you've got to be ready to put something in that hole. And ideally, you don't want that something to be a high-calorie drink, because that's somewhat defeating the purpose. So that's where I'm always about putting water in its place and trying to come up with maybe measures. For example, you know, by noon, really strive to have 24 ounces in, and then in the afternoon strive for another 24, or whatever is going to help that individual slowly increase their water intake, and at the same time help them cut back on their diet.
And it does help keep you feeling fuller, I think.
It does, absolutely. We don't talk enough about adequate hydration, in my opinion, and so it's certainly a topic that I like to bring up in my discussions. Generally, the warm summer months are when people don't have a problem drinking water, but as far as year round, it can be difficult.
Right.
But it's like any other habit. We get in the habit of having that diet soda, and so we just immediately order it. We don't think about not having it when we're eating out, or we don't think about going and getting water versus going to the fridge and grabbing that can if we're at home. So it's about training ourselves to think a little differently.
Constantly reminding ourselves.
Constantly reminding, yes.
What is our goal? We want to get to a certain goal, and continually reminding ourselves.
Had a conversation today with a gentleman, and he was not pleased with his blood sugar, and I said, well, you can go down this path and you know the results you're going to get, or we could make a few adjustments and you're going to continue eating the foods you enjoy, but you're also going to see improvements in your blood sugar. It's your choice. What would you like to do? And I find that when people feel more empowered, as if they, you know, get a say, because they do, they're more likely to follow through with the recommendations that we come up with together.
That sounds good. We only have a couple of minutes left. Is there anything that we haven't discussed that you want to bring up while we have the opportunity? Can you think of anything?
The main thing I want to emphasize is just the fact that don't discredit how impactful something small can be. I'm frequently known for saying small, better choices. So not suggesting that you need to go and change your meal and make it look like the plate that we talked about earlier, but could you start cutting back just a little bit? Or could you add to your meal and make it a little bit better?
Right. That sounds good. I think, you know, introducing some of the options that you have here, portion control, showing the size of the cups, because you don't have to drink, you know, gallons and gallons of water a day, because you think that sounds like a lot. And then just finding the right time through the week, and maybe not the weekend is the best time.
Exactly. I think there's so much information out there, and we're, you know, we certainly want to be open to that knowledge, but it has to come back to what are you willing to do and what makes sense for you, your schedule, your livelihood. Nothing should be done with just a clear short-term goal, but really about making a lifestyle change.
Sounds good. I appreciate you being on the show today. Thank you so
much. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, mine too. And thank you so much for joining us today. We'll catch you next time.
Sarah Bush Lincoln Health System, supporting healthy lifestyles, eating a heart-healthy diet, staying active, managing stress, and regular checkups are ways of reducing your health risks. Proper health is important to all at Sarah Bush Lincoln Health System.
At HS St. Anthony's Memorial Hospital, we are at work transforming heart care, rebuilding knees and hips, delivering new generations, and focused on providing health care to you. We are HS St. Anthony's Memorial Hospital.
Meeting the ever-changing healthcare needs of our communities, Paris Community Hospital Family Medical Center is now Horizon Health, with the same ownership, management, providers, and employees. Horizon Health provides patient care and promotes wellness to the communities of East Central Illinois.
Carl is redefining healthcare around you, innovating new solutions and offering all levels of care when and where you need it. Investing in technology and research to optimize healthcare, Carl, with Health Alliance, is always at the forefront to help you thrive.